The top stories tonight in Y News. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. oversees the post-earthquake response in Abra as the province is in a state of calamity. The House of Representatives has pledged to include funding for the restoration of earthquake-hit cultural sites in the national budget. A lawmaker believes that before imposing any new taxes to the population, the country's tax collection system should be fixed first. And adults aged 50 years old and above and individuals aged 18 years to 49 years with comorbidities can now receive a second booster against COVID-19. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, the 28th of July, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo. We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts. First in the news, the province of Abra is now under a state of calamity after being heavily devastated by yesterday's magnitude 7 earthquake. According to Abra officials, earthquake has damaged the province's major infrastructure and affected 80% of its residents. A state of emergency is required for the provincial government to address the needs of the people in the aftermath of the earthquake immediately. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., on the other hand, said there is still no need to declare a state of national calamity yet. A state of national calamity will be declared by the president only if 3 regions are heavily affected by a natural disaster or calamity. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. flew to Bangged, Abra today, a day after a powerful magnitude 7 earthquake rocked the province. The chief executive ordered the inspection of hospitals, clinics, and health centers before government buildings. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. took charge of the situation briefing in Abra concerning the impacts of the 7.0 magnitude earthquake that jolted parts of northern Luzon. The president stressed the need of restoring power supply in affected areas during the briefing.
Well, that unfortunately, yung pag-inspeksyon ng linya will take time, but I think we will just have to do as much as we can, as quickly as possible. Of course, that's going to be for the key for our relief efforts.
In order to address potential issues with the water supply, the president wants to immediately make water purifiers available.
One of the things that we have found useful in all of the disaster, pagka water supply ang nagiging problema, are the water purifying systems that are very simple. You've seen them before, yung nasa balde, and then they have a filter. We should procure more of those because immediately water is always going to be a problem. Para hindi, things like cholera, diphtheria will come into play.
He also requested that the Department of Social Welfare and Development give those who evacuated financial aid and meals. He also requested that tarpaulins be distributed for temporary makeshift shelters.
Maybe, tignan muna natin, i-assess natin kung kailangan na makapag-provide kahit na mga trapal lang, kahit yung mga just for the interim.
You are
doing that already.
We have that, Mr.
Good,
President.
because that will encourage people to go back home.
The chief executive also ordered that public buildings, particularly hospitals, clinics, and health centers, be inspected ahead of government buildings. He also asked the Department of Public Works and Highways to fast-track the opening of earthquake-impacted roads. 85% of the affected roads were reported to have been opened by the DPWH. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Vigan City Heritage District, which is home to numerous ancient houses popular with tourists, remains closed until further notice. From Vigan City, Ray Pelayo will tell us why live. Yes, Ray, good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening, Will. Several old houses here in Vigan City were either damaged or destroyed after a magnitude 7 earthquake rocked the nearby part of Abra. Today, the local government of Vigan City deployed teams of engineers and architects to inspect buildings in heritage sites over 400-year-old. Jonathan Asena, an architect, said that they need to inspect all 119 old houses as soon as possible.
Itong evaluation po siguro maximum of 3 days. Kasi yun yung bilin ni Mayor na kailangan talagang matapos para makapag-open up na po yung mga ibang business.
Many businesses were affected by the closure of tourist spots.
Pag Huwebes, marami ng tao po, maraming turista. Hanggang Linggo. Ngayon, wala.
Siyempre, maraming matatakot na turista kasi gawa po ng mga lumang houses ang dinadayo sa amin. Kaya siguro, ipacheck po ng mismong government ang mga establishment, isa-isa, para safety naman po kaming mga nagtitinda. At the same time, safety rin po yung mga turistang bumibili.
Mayor Sesingson says most businesses will return to normal operations by Monday.
Those tourists who are already here will be made to stay, no? They can stay that. But for the meantime, we're discouraging, publicly announcing from more tourists until such time that we can assess all the buildings, the safety.
That's the latest here from Vigan. Back to you, Will.
Yes, thank you. Ray Pelayo reporting live from Vigan City. The initial estimate for the damage to infrastructure brought on by the magnitude 7 earthquake in northern Luzon is more than 33 million pesos. The House of Representatives has pledged to include funding for the rehabilitation and restoration of earthquake-affected cultural sites in the national budget. Meanwhile, the proposal to place the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council under the direct control of the President's office received support from a lawmaker. Eileen Cerudo explains why.
In accordance with the national government's plan to help the provinces affected by the magnitude 7 earthquake, a commitment was made by House Speaker and Leyte 1st District Representative Martin Romualdez to allocate sufficient funding for the repairs of damaged infrastructures in Abra, Ilocos Region, Benguet, and Mountain Province.
We shall also join the good senator from Ilocos Norte on her call to support the budgetary requirements for the restoration of the heritage cultural sites, as well, of course, as the various infrastructures on the situation report.
House Speaker Romualdez visited Abra earlier today with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to assess the situation there following the disaster. More than 33.8 million pesos of infrastructure damage was recorded based on the initial report of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, or NDRRMC. More than 800 houses were also affected and 17 infrastructures, including schools, hospitals, and heritage sites, were damaged. Meanwhile, House Speaker Romualdez supported Senator Amy Marcos' proposal to streamline disaster response in the nation by placing the NDRRMC under the presidency.
On the part of the House, we shall support the good senator's proposal here, owing to the fact that we've always been looking for best practices in FEMA, or even the AFAD in Turkey are great models for best practices for these protocols.
Several lawmakers already expressed urgency to approve the proposed law in creating a Department of Disaster Resiliency. However, Senator Amy Marcos explained that the national government will be able to lessen expenses if the Office of the President will handle the NDRRMC. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Public Works and Highways expects all earthquake-affected roads to be passable by tomorrow. The agency also confirms that all flyovers in Metro Manila were unaffected by the strong quake. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
24/7 clearing operation is being conducted to reopen roads to traffic after being affected by the 7.0 magnitude earthquake yesterday. The Department of Public Works and Highways explains this was a directive of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. 21 road sections in Region 1 and Cordillera Administrative Region were damaged and affected by landslide or falling boulders. But as of noon today, only 4 of them remains unpassable from traffic.
We expect that late this afternoon or tomorrow, everything will be cleared out sa lahat ng national roads namin. And I have also instructed yung mga tauhan natin sa regions and district offices na tulungan din yung mga local government units.
DPWH engineers were also deployed across the National Capital Region to conduct rapid assessment of public infrastructures, especially flyovers. This is to ensure the integrity of the structures remains safe to the public after intensity 5 were felt in some areas in the metropolis.
And so far, ang feedback naman nila sa akin is actually wala namang nasira or any damages or na significant damage or damages na nakita nila sa ating mga flyovers.
The DPWH assures they are continuously monitoring the condition of other public infrastructures in all areas. The agency has yet to provide any estimate as to the cost of the damages brought about by the quake. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
More police and military personnel were sent in earthquake-affected areas where rescue operations were still being carried out. Authorities urge terrorists to refrain from attacking law enforcement officers in the wake of the disaster. Leah Ilagan reports.
The Philippine National Police had a send-off ceremony for its personnel who could conduct relief operations in earthquake-hit areas in northern Luzon. PNP Officer in Charge Police Lieutenant General Vicente Dano Jr. reminded the troops to exercise extra caution because aftershocks are anticipated after Wednesday's tremor. Additionally, Dano reminded his soldiers to be vigilant against New People's Army.
Mag-ingat kayo doon ha. Ang problema natin sa Abra hindi lang about natural disaster. Okay? It is also a known area of CTGs. Kaya mag-ingat kayo doon. Ayoko mangyari uli yung ang tao natin nagbibigay ng ayuda, babanatan na naman ng mga loko-loko dyan.
Additional search, rescue, and retrieval units were also sent by the Philippine Army.
Right now, Leia, we have increased our SRR units or yung search, rescue, and retrieval units natin to include now yung mga patrol bases and our mga active auxiliary are already on the move, to help out itong ating and assist the LGUs and the local disaster response units to evacuate affected families and yung mga clearing of the roads dun sa mga landslides area.
The PNP and Philippine Army appealed to the New People's Army not to use the disaster to attack the law enforcement and military personnel providing assistance to the affected residents. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, Indonesian President Joko Widodo met with the Prime Minister of Japan to discuss agreements that will strengthen the ties between the two countries. Charis Longbowen will give us the details live. Yes, Charis, good evening.
Good evening, Mariel. This year's chair of the G20 summit, Indonesian President Joko Widodo, also known as Jokowi, visited Japan on Wednesday as part of his East Asia tour to rally their support for the said summit, which will be held in Bali in November. In yesterday's bilateral meeting in Tokyo, the two leaders agreed to strengthen their ties in trade, investment, and maritime security. President Jokowi asked for support to reduce tariffs for several products such as tuna, banana, and pineapple, as well as market access for mango products. The Indonesian president also shared its appreciation to projects which are being completed on time, such as the MRT Jakarta North-South Phase 2 and East-West Phase 1. He also invited to support some Indonesian strategic projects with the help of Japan's science and technology and offered to send more Indonesian workers to Japan. Japan Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said President Jokowi's visit will serve as a momentum to strengthen relations with Indonesia as the two countries will celebrate 65 years of diplomatic relations next year. Back to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Cherise Longbowen, for that live report. Ukrainian forces continue to make progress against Russia by using precision rocket launchers supplied by the United States. Olga Chalyan will give us the details live. Yes, Paul, please go ahead.
Marielle, the Ukraine military launched rockets using the US-supplied high-mobility artillery systems, or HIMARS, damaging a bridge in the Kherson region, an essential supply bridge for the Russian forces. The HIMARS rocket launchers are said to have greater range and added precision, with an increased rate of fire compared to the artillery used by both Russia and Ukraine. More attacks on the Antonovsky Bridge were also launched by Ukrainian forces on Tuesday, after previously damaging the supply bridge last week, preventing all vehicles from crossing. While there has not been any word from Russian officials, the Ukraine military has reportedly killed 51 Russian members and destroyed ammunition, artillery, and military equipment. In his nightly address, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky reported their plans for the bridges which were damaged over the past 2 weeks.
Херсоні та інших переправ області. Звичайно, всі вони будуть відбудовані, але вже нами. Робимо все для того, щоб в окупантів не залишалося жодних логістичних можливостей на нашій землі. Які б не були у них плани, ми їх зламаємо. І будемо звільняти нашу територію воєнними, дипломатичними і всіма іншими доступними інструментами, поки не вийдемо на законні кордони України.
Meanwhile, on Russia's end, they have continued to increase shelling on cities and villages east of Ukraine and strengthened airstrikes on the south while claiming to have destroyed 4 of the 16 HIMARS and hundreds of rockets donated by the United States. Back to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Paul Gatchalian, reporting live. We'll share more global stories with you later, but for now, back to you, William.
Yes, thank you, Marielle. 923 new Omicron subvariant cases have been reported by the Health Department in the Philippines today. 890 of the cases are BA.5 subvariant cases. 823 were marked as recovered, while 31 remain in isolation. Additionally, there are 18 additional BA.4 subvariants. 7 cases are from the National Capital Region. 6 cases are from Bicol Region. 2 cases are from the Cordillera Administrative Region, and 1 case is from each of the following regions: Ilocos, Cagayan Valley, and Calabarzon. The DOH also reported that 15 tests with BA.2.12.1 Omicron subvariant cases were positive. Advice is given to the public to be extra cautious amid the more transmissible Omicron subvariants. COVID-19 cases continued to increase in the Philippines. According to the DOH's report, 3,047 COVID-19 cases have been reported daily this week. If compared to the COVID-19 cases recorded last week, this is 32% higher. The DOH claims that the current rise in cases may be compared to the rise in cases in February. According to the Health Department, the country as a whole continues to be at low risk since COVID-19 cases are increasing slowly.
Bagamat po nakapagpakita tayo ng unti-unting pagtataas, nananatiling mas mababa, no? Sa 1,000 cases mula mid-March ang ating mga severe at critical admissions. Inuulit namin, no? Yung pagtaas ng kaso, hindi po sinasabayan, no, ng admissions natin. As of July 26, tinatayang 734 cases o 8.32% ng total admissions ay severe at critical. Nananatiling asymptomatic po ang nasa 16.49% ng total admissions at mild na nasa 40.97% ang karamihan ng ating mga na-ospital na kababayan.
Due to an upsurge in COVID-19 cases caused by the more contagious Omicron variants, local government units have begun administering their second COVID-19 booster injection to those 50 years of age and persons belonging in the A3 priority group. Janice Inhente reports.
In accordance with the directives published by the Department of Health for the implementation of the expanded second COVID-19 booster dose, local government units are now accepting patients aged 50 and over and 18 to 49 years of age with comorbidities to receive fourth dose or second booster shot. On its first day of rollout in San Juan City, more than 200 people were inoculated earlier.
We will first focus on our San Juan residents now. Then eventually, once we have a high coverage of second booster shots already, we will open up to the public just the same way that we have done in the first and second doses and also sa first booster shots. Kailangan po natin mag-pre-register dahil una-una, hindi naman lahat qualified pa.
The Taguig City LGU opened 3 walk-in vaccination hubs, but only for its residents. The LGU also reminded to bring their vaccination card, a valid ID, and the Trace QR code. The local government in Makati City used 6 health centers and 3 vaccination hubs in city malls for the second booster vaccination. They will also prioritize their constituents for the fourth dose. The second booster should be administered at least 4 months after third dose or first booster shot, according to the Department of Health guidelines. The Food and Drug Administration and the Health Technology Assessment Council only allowed Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine brands to be administered for second booster. DOH confirms an enough supply of COVID-19 vaccines for the nationwide release of the second booster.
We have enough, and in fact, we have enough to last us even for the campaign, di ba? And even longer. Tapos ngayon, patuloy pa rin po yung tawag ng mga ibang bansa sa atin, mga bilateral partners, as well as COVAX. Patuloy pa rin na pwedeng dumating yung mga stocks, Tayo na ngayon nagsasabi na hindi, we have enough.
Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
An official from the Department of Health, or DOH, explains how gaps in the COVID-19 rollout may have affected the expiration of million COVID-19 jabs. Rosa Dicos explains why.
The Health Department reiterated that the rollout of the second booster shot is based on concrete scientific evidences. This is why DOH Officer in Charge Public Health Services Team Undersecretary Beverly Ho explained why they cannot just let the private sector use the expiring COVID-19 vaccines for second booster shots of those over 50 years old.
Klaro lang sa DOH is hindi po kami magpapalabas din ng guidelines basta-basta just because may kailangan tayong ubusin stocks, So mayroon tayong mga kasamahang mga Pilipino na hindi sila, they're skeptic about vaccines, and we wanted to make sure na alam nila kapag nagdesisyon yung DOH na i-roll out, hindi to dahil gusto lang natin magubos ng stocks. Ito ay dahil may siyensya at may ebidensya and it's safe for them.
Earlier, the private sector reported that the expired COVID-19 vaccines cost 5.1 billion pesos. Health experts say there were expired COVID-19 vaccines because of the gap between those who had completed their primary series and those who had their first booster shot, and not because of the delay on the part of the DOH and the Health Technology Assessment Council, or HTAC, in deciding to let them have their second booster shot.
Talaga namang nakakalungkot na may bakunang masasayang dahil nag-expire. Kung tatandaan natin na nagpumahog tayo nung simula para magkaroon tayo ng bakuna, tapos ngayon nandito tayo sa punto na sasabihin natin, oy, ito na-expire nang hindi natin nagagamit. Sino ba naman ang hindi manghihinayang? So, eto bang pag-expire ng mga bakuna? Dahil ba yan, ngayon lang in-approve ang second booster recommendation? I would beg to disagree kasi these are the same vaccines that were available for the first booster and even the primary series. So, hindi dahil sa ngayon lang in-approve ang second booster, kaya nagkaroon tayo ng expired doses.
The DOH is collaborating with the COVAX facility to replace expired and expiring COVID-19 vaccines. As of July 27, there are already 71.6 million fully vaccinated Filipinos. More than 16 million people have already received their first booster shot and 1.2 million have received their second booster shot. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, a Solon believes the country's tax collection system should be fixed first before imposing any new taxes to the people. Meanwhile, a neophyte lawmaker is optimistic that President Bongbong Marcos is still in support of the proposed shift to federal form of government. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
Returning Senator J.V. Ejercito believes that Marcos' administration should focus first on making the tax collection system efficient. This was his response when asked about his opinion on the tax reforms that were laid out by President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. during his first State of the Nation address, or SONA. Part of the proposed reform is the imposition of new taxes to improve the country's revenue collection, such as imposing value-added tax or VAT on digital services. Ejercito says efficient tax collection should be prioritized over new taxes for proper collection and in a bid to lure investors.
I would strongly suggest that we improve on our tax collection. We collect what is due first before, kasi shortcut yung pagtaas ng taxes Parang shortcut yun para to raise revenues. But I think we have to be more efficient in our tax collection.
Meanwhile, Senator Robin Padilla remains optimistic that Marcos Jr. is still in support of federalism. This despite its absence in the President's SONA. Out of the 19 priority bills of the President, charter change is not part of the list. For the neophyte senator, the President might not have mentioned federalism directly, but he believes that it was already implied in the economic plans, such as ushering foreign investments.
Pero dun yun. Saan natin kukunin yun? Yung pondo doon. Sino mag-i-invest sa atin kung hindi natin bubuksan ang bansa natin sa foreign investment? Pero ano na lang babasahin mo na lang yung sinasabi niya. Pagka pinag-aralan po yung 19 legislative imposible na wala doon ng charter change. Hindi natin hindi natin ma-achieve yun. Lalo na sa usapin ng investor.
He adds the President might have dodged the issue of charter change as it is controversial.
Kasi misinterpret na naman siya Kasi pag sinabi na naman yung charter change, ang mangyayari dyan, pupunta na naman sa term extension. Inaantay ng oposisyon yun, na madulas siya dun.
Padilla is an advocate of the proposed shift to a federal form of government. He will lead the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes, where the proposed bills on amending the Constitution will be tackled. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
According to political strategist Malu Tiquia, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s cabinet nominations may be changed after going through appointments for approval or disapproval by the Commission on Appointments. Rosa Licos details why.
Now that the 19th Congress is officially opened, the cabinet nominations of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will have to be approved by the powerful Commission on Appointments. Thus, political strategist Malu Tiquia believes there is a possibility for the cabinet to be reshuffled.
Sa tingin ko, magkakaroon ng balasahan ng kanyang kabinete, lalo na na-constitute ang Commission on Appointment.
However, Tiquia is still wondering why until now, the President has not named the secretaries of the Department of Health and the Department of Science and Technology. This after President Marcos stressed the important programs he is pushing under the Health Department, such as booster vaccination, as well as the creation of National Disease Prevention and Management and Virology Institute of the Philippines.
hindi ko maintindihan kung anong dahilan. Marami namang magagaling na tao na isabit na ang pangalan. Hindi rin maganda na holdover kasi ang COA does not allow a holdover. But you have to name your secretary for these things to move. Inip na inip ako.
Meanwhile, Tikia explained the significance of the executive staff for the president. A report emerged that Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez may be replaced by former Commission on Audit Chairperson Michael Aguinaldo or Special Assistant to the President Anton Lagdameo. Both are renowned for being closely related to the Marcoses. Apart from being COA chairperson, Aguinaldo also was before a Deputy Executive Secretary for Legal Affairs in the Office of the President, as well as head of the Investigation and Adjudication Office. Lagdameo was a 3-term Davao del Norte congressman.
Alam mo, hindi naman kailangan na lawyer ang executive secretary. By tradition, ginagawa nating lawyer. So siguro kailangan ng Pangulo, meron siyang executive officer, executive staff. Yun yung talagang core niya. Hindi ES, hindi executive staff. Yung talagang kailangan niya, yun ang gagawa, yun ang magfa-follow through.
E.S. Rodriguez has rejected the idea of leaving his position. Additionally, PBBM trusts E.S. Rodriguez for political analyst Professor Antonio Contreras.
Anong tingin mo naman dito sa mga marites na ito na lumutang? 'Di ba? Na ano tawag dito, yung executive secretary daw ay di umano ay nag-resign or something.
Yung kay Vic Rodriguez. Alam mo, hindi natin alam kung anong dynamics nangyari sa loob. Pero apparently, the fact that Vic Rodriguez is still there, the president still has a trust on him. At yung mga nagpakalat ng mga kwentong yon, kung ano man yung agenda nila, hindi sila nagtagumpay. Yun lang masasabi ko doon. Pero may mga other things kasi akong alam na ayokong bagitin in public.
Yeah, nakala ko. Pero there is smoke, there is fire eh. Ika nga, may smoke po. Di ba kaya?
Well, definitely yes. The fact that there's smoke. But you know, sabi ko nga nung hindi pa lumalabas si Vic Rodriguez para pasinungalingan yung mga balita. Sabi ko, ang duda ko diyan hindi mangyayari yan. Hindi papayagan ni PBBM na mangyari yan kasi it's going to speak badly on his presidency. Di ba? Na wala ka pang isang buwan tapos may nag-resign na agad yung executive secretary. Hindi ba ang pangit nun? Ang pangit tingnan nun. Optically, ang pangit nun. It's very
kung mangyayari man yan, dapat volunteer tapos biglang meron siyang gustong puntahan na lugar. Parang gano'n.
Oo, pero yung ngayon masyadong maaga.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The United States Federal Reserve continues to increase its rate, impacting the economy and consumers alike, making it difficult for home buyers and other loan applicants. Bianca Quijano will tell us why.
For 2 consecutive months, the Federal Reserve has raised its crucial short-term rate by 0.75%, which matched the largest hike that occurred in 1994. According to Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, this action only keeps the range close or to equalize the Fed's 2.5% long run, which they consider a neutral rate and well within their program, and not intended neither to surprise consumers nor incite economic growth. Powell also added that this might not be the last interest increase from the Federal Reserves when asked if the agency will dial back to a more conventional hike for the rest of 2022. Consumers and buyers are getting used to these large increases, and this could continue based on the slow progression of the U.S. economy, and the full impact is yet to be realized. By the way the central bank is moving, said Goldman Sachs and Barclays, consumers may see another half-point increase in September before it goes back down to more conventional quarter-point increase in the latter months of 2022. This means that home buying and other loan applications will not ease up anytime soon, and for some people, realizing the American dream of owning a home and borrowing money for important purposes will be even more challenging. Bianca Quijano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
U.S. President Joe Biden made his first public appearance on Wednesday after completing his COVID-19 isolation, and he credited the treatments he received after his hasty recovery. Using himself as an example, the president emphasized how far the country has come in protecting its people against the pandemic by making COVID-19 tests, vaccines, and antivirals available to the American public. He encouraged Americans to get vaccinations and booster shots as the highly contagious BA.5 variant sweeps the country, being believed to have infected the president as well. Even though the latest variants can surpass treatment protection, boosters and vaccines like the antiviral drug Paxlovid, which Biden completed during his 5 days isolation, still it reduces the risk of severe illness, death, and hospitalization. A healthcare company in the United Kingdom becomes the first pharmacy to deliver medicines using drones. Joselito Liquido will tell us the details live. Yes, Joselito, good evening.
Good evening, Marielle. One of the largest health retailer and pharmacy chain in the United Kingdom, Boots, becomes the first community pharmacy in the country to deliver prescription medicines using drones. So far, Boots has shipped medicines coming from Thorney Island to the Isle of Wight, where they were collected and transported to Boots pharmacies across the island. This technology, Marielle, cuts the transport time from 4 hours to 30 minutes compared to the traditional transportation to the island, usually involving a ferry and a road vehicle. Earlier this month, the NHS Chief Executive Amanda Pritchard announced that it intends to use drones to ship chemotherapy drugs to the island in the English Channel.
Delivering chemo by drone is just another example of how the NHS will stop at nothing to ensure that patients with cancer get the treatment they need as promptly as possible, while also, in this case, cutting costs and carbon emissions.
Marielle, the company is also working with the medical transportation company Apian to facilitate the shipments. Max Chapin, Apian's chief operating officer, is also added that deliveries using drones are not just faster and reliable, but they also bring with them additional environmental benefits and offer more sustainable solution for delivery. Back to you, Marielle.
All right, thank you, Joselito Liquido, for that live report. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Mariela Toza reporting live from Perth, Australia. Good evening.
Our kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the Global Prayer for Humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, remind the public once again to prepare for the potential large earthquake popularly known as the Big One, not only in the greater Metro Manila but also in other areas with active faults and trenches. Dante Amento will tell us why.
A magnitude 7.2 earthquake may cause an intensity 8 earthquake in the greater Metro Manila at any time in the future. As a result, the Philippine Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, warns the public to take the necessary precautions. Among these include participation in various programs in local government units such as earthquake drills and information campaigns.
Pagdating naman po sa individual plan, dapat po alam natin yung plan ng family. Kung nasa school tayo, evacuation plan po ng school o sa office, evacuation plan ng office. At mag-ano po tayo, sali po tayo sa mga earthquake drills kasi doon po natin malalaman kung nasan yung evacuation area, ano ba yung parang practice siya eh.
An intensity 8 quake will be felt in the entire national capital region as well as some parts of Bulacan, Rizal, Cavite, and Laguna provinces based on a 2013 study. It will cause major damage to many infrastructures and buildings.
Heavy damage po nung na pwedeng mangyari sa mga residential buildings, around 12%. No, in total. And then public is around 8 to 10%. Ito yung heavy damage, meron pa pong partly damage which is around 25%. And medyo yung ibang bahay, siguro lalo na yung mga hindi properly engineered, baka po magkaroon din niya ng mga cracks or baka yung iba mag-collapse na at that ground shaking na intensity 8.
A 2013 study also revealed that 31,000 people will die as a result of the big one. 14,000 people will be very seriously injured, 112,000 will be seriously injured, and 385,000 will be slightly injured. The country would also suffer economic losses of over 2.2 trillion pesos. The number of people affected will continue to increase due to continual growth in the National Capital Region and neighboring provinces.
Pero syempre, sabi mo nga, mas malaki na yung population natin ngayon, so baka mas marami, madagdagan ito. Kung hindi tayo naghanda, since nilabas namin itong information na to. Pero kung maghahanda tayo at yung mga recommendation namin, ginawa ng LGU, ginawa ng mga tao, mababawasan to.
The PHIVOLCS has clarified that the big one will happen not only in the Greater Metro Manila, but also in other areas across the country, particularly those with active faults and trenches. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word giving glory to God from the book of Proverbs, chapter 15, verse 3. It says, "The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good." And those are the reasons behind the news, July 28, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am William Theo, and because we need to know, we will always ask why. We serve the people, we give glory to God.